I never believed in ghosts. Never thought the stories were real. But that was before I moved into the house on Cedar Hollow Road, a place so drenched in silence and shadow it felt like the walls themselves were watching. I still remember the first night. The air inside was thick and stale, like the house had been holding its breath for decades. The floorboards creaked underfoot with every step, as if sighing from some ancient ache. Outside, the wind was a low moan weaving through skeletal branches, scratching at the windows like desperate fingers. I unpacked the last box, and that's when it started, a soft tapping from upstairs. I froze. The sound was faint, tap, 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 like nails on wood. But I was alone. I told myself it was just the house settling, or maybe a branch brushing the window. I laughed nervously and climbed the stairs. Halfway up, the tapping stopped. Then, just as I reached the top, a sudden bang slammed somewhere deep inside the walls. My heart jumped, cold, sharp, sudden. "Okay," I whispered, "just the house. Just the house." The next morning, light revealed the house's peeling wallpaper, dust motes dancing like tiny ghosts in the sunbeams. But even in daylight, there was something off, a faint smell of damp earth mixed with something metallic, like old blood. I explored the basement and found a heavy wooden door I hadn't noticed before. It was locked tight, but the keyhole was oddly cold to the touch, almost sucking the warmth from my fingers. Later, when I was cooking, I heard footsteps behind me, heavy, slow, pacing. I spun around. Nothing. Just the empty hallway. That night, I couldn't sleep. The wind had turned into a howl, rattling the window panes. Then came the whispering. At first, I thought it was the radio static, until words formed, soft but urgent. "Get out." My blood ran cold. I grabbed my phone to call someone, but the screen went black. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a shadow slipping across the hallway, too fast to catch, but unmistakably there. I jumped up. My pulse thundered in my ears. Over the next few days, the house grew more aggressive. Doors slammed on their own, lights flickered, and the temperature dropped sharply whenever I entered certain rooms. Once, in the bathroom mirror, I saw a pale face behind me. Eyes wide, lips stretched in a silent scream. I whipped around. No one. The basement door sometimes creaked open, just a crack. I never dared go down there. One evening, as I was about to fall asleep, the bedroom door slowly creaked open, inch by inch. A cold breath brushed my neck. I turned and screamed. Nothing was there, but the darkness seemed to pulse with something alive. Then, thud, a heavy thump on the floor beside the bed. I yanked the covers over my head, heart pounding like a drum in the silence that followed. The nights grew worse. That second night, I woke to the sound of soft whimpering coming from the hallway. I peeled back the covers, every nerve screaming to stay still, but curiosity pushed me forward. The hallway was pitch black, but the whimpering was real, a low, broken sound, like a child lost and scared. I flicked on the light switch. Nothing. The bulb fizzled and died. In the dark, I saw it. A small shadow crouched just beyond the doorframe, hunched and trembling. It vanished the instant I blinked. I stumbled back, heart hammering, tripping over my own feet. When I looked again, there was nothing. Only silence. Later that week, I found scratches on the kitchen wall, deep, angry gouges that hadn't been there before. I ran my fingers over them. They were fresh. Wet. I pulled back and saw tiny drops of dark liquid dripping down like bleeding wounds. One night, I woke to the bedroom door slowly opening again. This time, the hallway was filled with dozens of tiny, whispering voices. They circled me in the dark, speaking in a language I couldn't understand but felt bone-deep fear from. Then, from the far corner, a face emerged, pale, eyes hollow, mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. It lunged toward me with impossibly fast speed. I screamed and threw the covers over my head. When I dared to look again, it was gone, but the room was freezing cold, and I could still feel its breath on my neck. The basement door, the one I always avoided, started to open on its own more frequently. One night, I heard a child's laughter echoing from the darkness below. It was bright, playful, but twisted, like a toy wound up wrong. I wanted to look, to prove to myself it was just a trick of the mind. But the moment I touched the handle, icy fingers gripped my wrist, and a guttural growl rumbled through the door, shaking the walls. I yanked my hand away and stumbled backward, panting. Then, the letters began. At first, they appeared on fogged windows, scratched with long, thin nails, "Leave now." Then on my bathroom mirror, scrawled in the condensation after a shower, "They watch." Finally, one night, I woke to find a message painted in fresh blood across the ceiling of my bedroom. "You belong to us." I didn't sleep for days. The house was alive. Watching. Hunting. Every corner hid a new terror. Every shadow whispered lies. And the thing waiting in the basement was calling me home. It was late, too late, but something pulled me toward the basement door again. The house felt wrong without me down there, like a part of itself was missing. The door was cracked open just enough for a sliver of darkness to leak out, thick and oily, swallowing the dim light from the hallway. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. A sharp coldness shot up my arm, freezing my blood. I took a breath and pushed it open. The stairs groaned underfoot as I descended into a blackness so complete I couldn't see my own hand in front of me. Then, the door slammed shut above me. I was trapped. The basement smelled of earth and decay. The air was thick, each breath tasted like rust and rot. Somewhere in the shadows, a low scraping noise began, a slow, deliberate dragging. My eyes adjusted just enough to see something moving in the darkness. A pale shape, crouched low, with ragged hair hanging over its face. It whimpered again, that broken child sound. I stepped closer, heart hammering. Suddenly, it screamed, a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream that shattered the silence and stabbed through my skull. I stumbled back and slammed into a wall. My hand brushed against something wet and sticky. I looked down. A pool of black blood, thick and bubbling, creeping toward me like a living shadow. A figure emerged from the darkness then, tall, gaunt, with hollow eyes burning like coals. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. It lunged. I screamed and scrambled backward, but the walls closed in, tightening like a noose. Suddenly, I was falling. The basement dissolved into an endless void. Voices swirled around me, whispers, screams, laughter. Each one ripping at the edges of my mind. I saw flashes of the house's terrible past, children trapped, voices silenced, lives stolen. I realized with a sickening certainty, the house didn't just haunt. It consumed. And now, it wanted me. I gasped awake in my bedroom, sweat soaking my sheets. But the whispers lingered. The house was still alive. Still waiting. I don't know how long I'd been trapped in that endless darkness, seconds, hours, a lifetime. Time didn't exist there. Only fear. My skin crawled. My breath was ragged. The voices inside me grew louder, screaming, laughing, begging, accusing. I clawed at the void, desperate for something real. Then, a single flicker of light. A door. I pushed through. I was back in the house, but it wasn't the same. The walls bled, thick red rivers pooling onto the floor. The wallpaper curled and writhed like burning skin. From the corner of my eye, something darted. A pale child with black, hollow eyes, dragging a broken doll behind it. It turned, its mouth splitting impossibly wide, revealing sharp, rotten teeth. I ran. Hallways twisted impossibly, stretching and collapsing around me. My reflection stared back from every cracked mirror, but it wasn't me. It grinned, eyes black voids, and whispered, "You belong here." I screamed, pounding fists against the glass. Suddenly, I was falling again, this time through a well of shattered memories. Faces of the lost, the victims of the house, flickered before me, twisted, broken, begging for release. And then, a hand. Cold, bony, grabbing my ankle. I tumbled into the darkness. When I woke, I was back in my bedroom. But the nightmare wasn't over. The walls whispered my name. The floorboards creaked. The door slowly opened again. I can't tell where I end and the house begins anymore. The whispers are constant now, soft, cruel, pressing into my skull like needles. Last night, I was lying in bed when the ceiling dripped. At first, I thought it was water, until I saw the thick, black liquid pooling on the floor, crawling like a living thing. I tried to wipe it away, my hand sank into the slick mess, and I pulled back with a scream as it clung to my skin like oily fingers. The mirror in the hall shattered by itself. The shards rearranged on the floor, spelling out my name. Every door in the house locks behind me. I'm trapped inside a maze that rearranges with every step. I found a diary hidden in the attic. The entries were scrawled in frantic handwriting, telling the story of a family driven mad by the house, voices that whispered secrets, walls that watched, shadows that reached out. One page was smeared with blood. The last entry read, "They're coming for me. I don't think I'll escape. Please, if you find this, don't stay." Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at the bedroom door. I froze. No one else lives here. The knocking turned into pounding. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone. The door handle twisted slowly, painfully. And then, silence. I'm writing this now because I don't know how much time I have left. The house is hungry. It's breaking me. And I fear the next knock won't be on the door, it'll be behind me. The knocking started again last night, so faint at first I thought it was my imagination. But it grew louder, echoing through the hollow bones of the house, like a heartbeat from some dark place beneath the floorboards. I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see those hollow-eyed children, watching, waiting. Their fingers tapping on the walls, as if trying to claw their way out. I decided to investigate the walls. At first, I thought it was just old plaster cracking. But when I pressed my ear to the wallpaper, I heard whispers. Frantic, desperate, overlapping voices begging to be heard. I tore away the wallpaper in a small corner of the living room. Behind it, the wall was soft, like rotten flesh. I poked it with my finger and it gave way, revealing a narrow crawlspace filled with broken toys, decayed clothes, and faded photographs. I pulled out a crumpled photo. A smiling family, 2 children, a mother, and a man standing in front of this very house. The edges were singed, and something wet and cold stuck to the back. I looked down at my hands and they were smeared with something dark, sticky and warm. Suddenly, a cold breath brushed my neck. I whipped around. Nothing. Just the house breathing. Then, a soft voice whispered from the crawlspace, "Help us." I stumbled backward, heart hammering. The house isn't just haunted. It's a prison. And the shadows inside the walls want out. I couldn't sleep again. My dreams bled into waking hours, and waking hours slipped into nightmares I couldn't escape. That crawlspace, something kept pulling me back. I grabbed a flashlight, a crowbar, and forced the rotten wall open wider. The stench hit me first, damp earth, decay, and a faint metallic tang, like old blood. Inside was a narrow tunnel, barely big enough for me to crawl through. My light flickered as I edged forward, the walls closing in with every breath. Then I heard it, faint crying. A child's sobs, broken and raw. I followed the sound deeper until I found a small, crumbling room. In the center sat a rusted crib, empty, but the floor was soaked with something sticky and dark. Suddenly, a shadow darted past the edge of my light. I spun, nothing. Then, cold fingers grabbed my ankle, dragging me toward the darkness. I screamed and kicked free, scrambling out of the tunnel, slamming the rotten wall shut behind me. That night, the house roared. Walls vibrated, windows rattled. Voices screamed in every language, every pitch, a cacophony of pain and madness. And through it all, I heard one voice clearly, join us. I'm losing time. Days bleed together. I see things, faces in the walls, hands reaching through mirrors, whispers calling my name. I don't know who I am anymore. But one thing is certain, the house is alive. And it's hungry. I woke to the sound of scratching, deep, desperate, frantic, coming from inside my own skull. The voices had grown louder, screaming not just in my ears but in my bones. I staggered into the kitchen, and there it was again, the black blood, pooling in slow, heavy waves from the ceiling. I tried to wipe it away, but the blood clung like tar, smearing over my hands and dripping down my arms. Then, from the shadows, something moved. A figure, bent and twisted, crawling on all fours, skin pale and stretched tight over jagged bones. Its eyes were hollow pits, and its mouth opened impossibly wide, too wide, as it hissed and lunged toward me. I stumbled back, slamming into the wall. The house seemed to feast on me. Every step I took, the walls bled, the floors groaned, and the air thickened with decay. I found scratches on the floor, deep, desperate claw marks leading to the basement door. I knew what awaited me down there. The basement wasn't a room anymore. It was a cavern of broken dreams and shattered souls. Bodies hung from the ceiling, twisted, broken, dripping with black blood. They whispered secrets, promises, and lies. And in the center of it all, a throne of bones where the house's heart beat like a dark, hungry thing. I realized then what the house wanted. It wanted me to join the feast. To become part of its endless hunger. I screamed. But my voice was swallowed. And the house closed in around me. The last thread of me unraveled in that cavern of bones and blood. I was no longer myself. The house had pried open my mind, spilling out memories, hopes, fears, twisting them into grotesque puppets that danced and screamed. I saw my reflection in the blood-soaked walls. A face that wasn't mine. Eyes black and empty. Teeth sharpened into a cruel grin. Voices clawed from inside my head. You belong to us. Join us forever. My body convulsed as shadows writhed beneath my skin, breaking bones, tearing flesh. The house fed on my terror, my pain. Shaping me into its newest horror. Time lost meaning. I drifted through endless corridors of madness. Hallways bleeding, floors cracking open to reveal endless darkness. I heard laughter, childish, cruel, echoing from the walls. And I knew I was trapped. The last thing I remember before the darkness took me was the cold bite of sharp teeth sinking into my throat. And then, silence. But even now, as I write this, if this is even me, I feel the house inside me. It's alive. Hungry. Waiting. I don't know how I'm still here. Part of me is gone, shattered, consumed by the house's hunger. But another part, the smallest spark of me, refuses to die. It started as a whisper inside my skull, run. I clawed my way out of that bone throne room, staggering through corridors that shifted and bled, like the house itself was trying to trap me forever. Every door I tried slammed shut, every window shattered into jagged teeth. The walls whispered secrets, luring me back. But I fought. I ripped through the rotten wallpaper, tore down pictures, smashing mirrors. I had to find a way out. Down in the basement, the air was thick with decay and dread. I found an old boiler room, its rusted furnace still faintly glowing. I realized, fire. Maybe fire could burn this place down. As I set the furnace ablaze, screams erupted from the walls. The house shook, groaning as if in pain. Shadows twisted and lunged, but I ran, my heart pounding, lungs burning. Smoke filled the halls. Flames licked at the ceiling. The house fought to hold me, to consume me once and for all. I don't know if I'll make it out. But I have to try. Because if I don't, the house wins. Flames roared to life, swallowing the boiler room in a hungry blaze. The heat hit me like a physical blow, sweat pouring down my face, lungs burning with every desperate gasp. The house screamed, a guttural, inhuman howl that rattled the walls and shook the floor beneath my feet. Shadows writhed in the firelight, twisted shapes that reached for me with claws and teeth. I ran. The corridors twisted and bent, walls closing in. Smoke choked the air, thick and acrid. My vision blurred. Voices screamed inside my head, madness clawing at my sanity. I heard the basement door slam shut behind me. I was trapped. I stumbled through the darkness, hands outstretched, searching. Then, a flash of moonlight through a shattered window. Freedom. But the moment I crossed the threshold, a cold hand grabbed my ankle, dragging me back. I screamed and kicked, tearing free just as the house cracked, groaned, and began to collapse. I burst out into the night, lungs burning, heart pounding. Behind me, the house burned, flames devouring the cursed walls, smoke twisting into screaming faces. I don't know if the house is gone. Or if it's just waiting for me.